What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit a million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
The following program are pre-recorded.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken along with Jason Spees from The Crude Life. You can catch Crude Life Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. Morning, Jason.
Good morning. And not to correct you off the bat here, but we did go through a little bit of a rebranding on The Crude Life, expanding, I guess, to the Crude Life Week in Review is now actually called This Week in Energy, and the Crude Life is now a segment within This Week in Energy. And this next week, in fact, we're going to be talking about geothermal energy. We're going to be talking about carbon sequestration. And Steve, the carbon, we've been talking about the whole carbon management industry, and it's so funny because we have carbon interviews on quite a bit. And when I reach out and ask people about, carbon management, and they say, what do you mean by carbon management? And I'll say, like, carbon sequestration. Oh, yeah, I know all about that. And I'm thinking, well, why don't you know what carbon management is? Because that's like the old big overview type thing. Anyway, Oxy is actually calling themselves a carbon management company.
Yeah, and this is something you've been talking about for a long time, and I want to come back to that. But so for the listeners, because again, the Crude Life, you sold off the property, and it has gone through a couple iterations, and now it is being rebranded as This Week in Energy because it's not just. So you were radio.
Well, but hang on here. But the Crude Life's going to stick around.
Right. The Crude Life's going to stick around
in a different format. So it's going to become a niche because, well, let's compare it to radio. Let's compare it to newspaper. So like Town Square Media, your parent company, they're a content company. They're not a radio company anymore. They're a content company. And
digital content, radio, marketing. Yeah. It's radio, a bigger picture.
Radio happens to be their strength when it comes to distribution. Just like in the newspaper world, the reason why the newspaper is having such a hard time is because for forever they were the trusted source. And, radio had a different kind of news. It kind of accommodated more towards people that were in the vehicle for that news. In the office, the people would entertain people at the office, but the news was pertinent to people there. So when like newspapers, they have no idea how to have a distribution anymore because they don't have the print. When they had the print, they literally would have somebody go door to door, Steve. And the only other person that has a distribution penetration like that is the U.S. Post Office. That's it. And so when you literally have somebody that can go door to door, that's incredible distribution. Now,
well, it used to be Girl Scouts, but Girl Scout cookies don't go door to door either. You see them setting up at a store.
Perfect example.
They don't do the door to door cookie sales anymore, which I kind of miss.
No, and so take that to radio. Radio. Basically, you had to have a radio, or you had to be in the car, and so there was ways that people could get that audience. And what we're talking about here is distribution. We're talking about distribution. So the Crude Life, we're actually going to expand into a different format because what I did, Steve, is I kind of set up some deals because The crude life has always had kind of a news focus, because the way that I was trained in the media is you have to have that vanilla. You have to have, Town Square Media, 1270 AM Super Talk. You run news. There's a reason you run news, is because you need something that is trustworthy. You need something that is, sterile, vanilla, not leaning, because when you and I talk, we have a lot more opinions within our rhetoric. It's laced in facts too. It's no different than CNN or Fox News or some of these others, because they're basically editorializing around the news. And so, anyway, I'm getting kind of off a little bit, but my point is that this week in energy, we're going to still feature crude life. So we're still going to have interviews with, oil and gas experts. But the way the world is going, Steve, is, there's no more oil and gas companies. They're energy companies. There's no more radio stations or newspapers. They're content companies. So we've just kind of, I guess I don't even know, modernized, a little bit. So, we've
updated, upgraded.
Yeah. And we've grown, to do, the podcasting world has really taken off for us in different areas. And, just between you and me and a fence post and the people listening, we're going to get into video this summer with the crude life. So we're going to start offering video now. So if Town Square Media wants to start carrying, the video content on their website, absolutely. They'll be able to do that. And then that gives them an opportunity to sell sponsorships around it. So we're trying to create new revenue.
Well, go back, because you're one of the originators of in your way, a quality podcast. And the digital video side of that is, look at the change in the YouTube channel. So the YouTube channel is a bunch of podcasters, but with the video. And that space has grown, and you're just getting into that space as well. Because again, it's about the distribution, because that's the thing that's changed the paradigm. There's been a big paradigm shift in not only content creation, but content consumption. And that's the delivery method. That's the distribution method. And you have to check more boxes now than you did back when you and I were young, dumb, and stupid and got into radio and got into newspapers. And it's changed light years since then.
So the reality is, if you have a phone, you can listen to Talk of the Town with Steve Bakken anywhere in the world. That's the bottom line. And so Steve Bakken benefits from it. Town Square Media benefits from it. Super Talk 1270 benefits from it. And on Wednesday, Jason Spiess benefits from it. So I know right now there's at least 20 plus people listening to this right now on the internet or on their phone down in Texas. I know that because they text me, they email me, and they let me know that they listen to this all the time, because what we talk about is extremely relevant, and it transcends geography, Steve. We have you and I have a lot of real discussions. Yes, we talk about some local people and some local politicians, but the way we address the issues are universal. They're very universal, because a lot of the issues that we seem to talk about have a very ethical base and an ethical core behind it. And when you have that does transcend boundaries. Much like,
I thought the only one that listened to us in Texas was Sarah Stogner, the unicorn lawyer. But I stand corrected. And from a previous energy program that I used to do, after I was done doing it, I found that out, that there was, in the oil sector, oil and gas sector, a lot of people that listened because of what they had assets in North Dakota, and they needed to know what was going on, boots on the ground in North Dakota. So, going back then, relevant content. We're up against a break, but again, don't forget to check out Jason Spiess with the Crude Life as well as This Week in Energy. The Crude Life will be a segment of This Week in Energy, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Boggan along with Jason Spiess of the Crude Life and This Week in Energy. The Crude Life is going to be a part of This Week in Energy. You can catch it at 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270 Sunday mornings. And Jason, you mentioned the Oxy, and you have been on this boat for a long time about the rebranding of energy. And Oxy, which is an oil company, oil and gas, but they're not anymore. They have rebranded themselves. They are a carbon company. Now, if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, because I don't care if it's coal, gas, oil, any traditional energy source. What is it? It's carbon. You're carbon. I'm carbon. Everything's carbon. Anything that matters from a fuel perspective, from an energy perspective, from a food perspective, has something to do with carbon. Now, the question I've got for you with Oxy rebranding, because you and I have talked about the synergy between energy companies and agriculture for a while now. Is this the next iteration? Oxy just decided to jump off first.
I think so. Oxy's a female CEO, very progressive minded. When I say progressive, I'm not talking politics. I'm just talking about looking ahead to
forward thinking.
Right. Forward thinking, not
long-term planning.
And there might be some politics involved, because, you know, the whole carbon industry is politically driven. So when I look at what Oxy's doing, this is something that does not surprise me at all. We were calling oil and gas companies energy companies long before oil and gas industry was doing it, because we saw that the branding and the rebranding needed to be done. When I suppose it was about 3-4 years ago, right around 2019, maybe. Boy, 5 years ago now? Has it been that? Is it 2024?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
so 5 years ago is when I started noticing the trinity happening. So the trinity of carbon, ag, and energy. But Steve, you can go back 12 years, and I was writing about the ag and energy connection back then.
You were
for national magazines, and a lot of it had to do with reclamation. A lot of it also had to do with the biomass. Some of their companies were flirting with the biomass.
Oh, I remember an article you wrote. I forget which company it was, but one of the big oil companies. Was it Exxon, or did they just buy up who it was? They were, and this was a while ago, they were jumping in. You remember the article you wrote? They were jumping in to algae and plankton and different sea-based, renewable energy sources.
I think it was Exxon that was doing that.
I think it was Exxon.
Yeah, I think it was ExxonMobil that was doing that down in Texas, if my memory serves me correctly. But So to me, I started seeing this happen. And in 2019 is when I started saying, boy, you're going to start to see this trinity of carbon, ag, and energy tied together. And so to see, to start hearing about Oxy branding themselves as a carbon management company. And I'm not sure if they're doing it publicly or not. I haven't really looked too much. I just, I've been hearing it out of Houston.
Well, now, and here's what part of the reason it's important is because you take a look at the petroleum industry in North America, and Occidental Petroleum was one of the foundation companies in the business.
Yeah.
And no more, they're now a carbon company.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the reasons that, British Petroleum changed their name to BP. Occidental changed their name to Oxy. You change your image to fit in. And it doesn't matter if you're going to church. It doesn't matter if you're going to school. Doesn't matter if you're an oil and gas company. Sometimes you got to change your image to fit in. Liberty Oil is Liberty Energy. I mean, Chris. Right now,
I have a question for you. I have a question for you. So, and I prescribe to evolve or die. So you need to be constantly evolving, constantly rethinking, constantly reimagining yourself. Is that what these companies are doing, or is it just the marketing piece to fit in and have their image fit in, but they're continuing to do business as usual? Because there's a difference.
Yeah, there is. And there's even a third one to it. So there's the people that don't change and they slowly wither and die in the vine. And then there's those who evolve.
That's the way we've always done it. And I hate that phrase.
And right. It's terrible. That's very close-minded thinking. Then there's those who do evolve. And oftentimes evolving is just survival, Steve. That's it. It's surviving. You are just doing enough to survive. And literally that's what evolution is. And then there's those that grow. There's those that grow internally. There's those that grow and really adapt. They go beyond evolving and they adapt to their environment. And that's what Oxy's done. That's really what Oxy's done. BP did that when they changed their name because, for one, they knew there was kind of a British backlash. And number two, after the Deepwater Gulf spill, they had the word petroleum had a negative connotation. So when British Petroleum became BP, it was a 2-for-1 there. They got a twofer. And if you think I'm kidding, Royal Dutch Shell, they're just Shell. There's a reason the European companies started dropping their name in the 2000s. And, America was very George Bushed up, and Trump just put the cherry on the cake for that kind of stuff, when it came to that American pride. So there's a lot to it, Steve. But to answer your question, there's the ones that don't change and wither and die. There's the ones who evolve and basically just do enough to sustain and survive. And then there's those that grow and adapt. And part of that is rebranding, but also you have to do it. Like the crude life. We've been around for 12 years without any help from Commerce, without any help from Ron Ness or the North Dakota Petroleum Council, without any help from Jeff Simon or the Western Dakota Energy Association. And now the state's giving them $300,000 to go compete with all the stuff that we've been doing. So we've adapted, Steve. They continue to evolve because they need help from the government. Because remember, the government is here to help the weak. The government's here to help the weak.
Well, a great example of, you take a look at the media that's been displaced, and Bakken Oil Magazine, great example. Print only. And closing their doors. So not evolving and kind of running into, because there's the two lines of thought. It's either you run your course with your business plan and you're done, or how do you adapt or evolve that business plan to continue forward? And we're seeing a lot of that. I want to come back to, because after the break, I want to talk a little bit about where the companies that are doing business as usual, but maybe doing the rebranding, where did they fit in? This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270 on a Wattage Wednesday. I'm Steve Bakken along with Jason Spiess from The Crude Life. You can hear The Crude Life on This Week in Energy. The Crude Life will be a segment of This Week in Energy, a little rebranding, redistribution for The Crude Life and Jason Spiess. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
Hello, Anderson.
And Steve Bakken.
On Super Talk 1270, Saturday afternoons, 1 till 4 on Super Talk 1270. Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken along with Jason Spiess, my co-host on Wattage Wednesday. You can catch Jason with This Week in Energy on Super Talk 1270, Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. The Crude Life will be a segment nestled in there as well, but expanded content, expanded breadth of information to shell out, because there's so much more that we're looking at in an expansive energy market. I want to talk a little bit, Jason. We're talking about Occidental Petroleum, Oxy, that has now rebranded themselves. They're no longer an oil company. But the question, and I know they're doing it because they're expanding, they're adapting, they're evolving. What about the companies? Where do they fit into the formula, or do they fit in at all? That, okay, we're just going to do a little rebranding because of ESG, or, you know, we're just chasing the marketing plan. We're actually not changing anything. We're not doing anything different. We're not evolving. We're not adapting, but we're just slapping lipstick on the pig and going to have a new name or a new marketing strategy. That's out there too. What's the future look like for companies like that? Where I look at it as it's more like a shell game.
Well, there's going to be companies that are made examples of, because the SEC, the IRS, the EPA, they are currently hiring climate justice officers. And, I'm not kidding you. I've actually been solicited for the role. I'm not kidding you. To where the climate justice officer, and you go out and investigate companies.
So who
are blowing literal smoke up your butt.
So this isn't cool like the Justice League or, you know, the Super Friends or anything like that.
It's not even cool like Sid Justice, the wrestler.
Because that would be cool.
Oh, yeah, getting the power.
Wonder Twins, all right, yeah.
Oh, yeah, but it's, but take a look at, okay, the Crude Life and the Week in Energy. Let's just do a comparison to that. So, Oxy is saying, listen, we've invested in a lot of different areas outside of oil and gas. So we're not an oil and gas company. We're an energy company. And then they came out and said, you know what? We're not even really an oil and gas company. We're not even an energy company. We're really a carbon management company. If we're going to get into this carbon sequestration and carbon management and pipelines and oil and gas and LG and biomass and wind. And you see what I mean? Now we're kind of really in a carbon management business. So
it's an all of the above energy portfolio is what it is.
And so the crude life has always been under the mindset that, 95% of what we use on a regular basis involves fossil fuels, whether it's manufactured or it's produced or it's transported by a fossil fuel. I personally believe that the end user is the most important customer at the end of the day for the oil and gas industry. And with the name The Crude Life, we've always wanted to focus on the lifestyle. And because everybody else did politics, we literally stayed away. That's one of the reasons why we have 500,000 followers on social media, is because we stayed away from politics the last 12 years. We focused on the stories, the lifestyle stories, the parts that were positive about the industry. And we're going to continue doing that. And we're actually going to expand into other areas of it as well. But we're not going to do it from an egocentric stance. We're going to do it from we're a contributor. We're now part of the team. We're no longer the team anymore. We're part of the team. So this week in energy is actually going to open up more doors for the crude life, because now Town Square Media, for example, they might have cities that want to air the program that are not oil and gas towns. So they might have a town that, is a very energy centric town for whatever reason. Ethanol. They might have an ethanol town. All of a sudden, boom, this week in energy. They might have a geothermal town. We have a geothermal. We have the geothermal president of the alliance coming on this weekend to talk about how geothermal and carbon management are tied together. I didn't even know that geothermal and carbon were working together. So that's the exciting part, Steve, is that for us, for example, with the crude life, we've been advertising these changes, and we've been talking about how we're going beyond, how we're reaching out to new audiences. So in the same question, these energy companies that are saying, hey, look how green we are. Look at us. It's Meatless Monday and it's Recycle Saturday. Well, just like the media has audits to find out how many people listen to your podcast and how many listeners tuned into your radio show, well, now the business world's going to have climate justice officers checking to see what your methane, what your methane levels really are. Your cute little artificial intelligent graphic design you put up. Well, now we're going to check you to see if it works. So a lot of these different, ESG different people, man, they're going to be so busy next year. Holy smokes. And the reason I know this is because the money's already been allocated and the people are being trained right now. So
I wonder if Greta Thunberg has a Justice Warrior wonder twin.
I know you're joking, but at the same time, here's what concerns me.
Am I joking?
Here's what concerns me about Greta Thunberg is that, number one, she has followers, and number two, they're getting old enough to breed.
And she's not an expert about anything. She was spoon-fed by an agenda. Yeah. Okay, so tell you what, we're up against a break. When we come back, I want to talk to you a little bit about we've talked about Oxy and the evolution of them becoming a carbon management company. The predecessor to Oxy was Liberty. Now, I want to just talk a little bit about where that goes, because they stepped off first, and instead of being an oil and gas company, they became an energy company. So I want to get into the evolution of all this. So we're talking with Jason Spiess of The Crude Life, and This Week in Energy. You can catch This Week in Energy Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
talk of the town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken along with Jason Spiess on a Wattage Wednesday, my co-host, and you can catch Jason with This Week in Energy Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. The crude life not going away. It's going to be part of This Week in Energy. It just kind of folded in with its own little autonomous segment. Jason, we're talking a little bit about the progression, and I want to step back a little bit because Occidental Petroleum, then Oxy. Now Oxy is no longer an oil company. They're a carbon management company. Liberty Energy, they stepped off first. So before the CO2 and the carbon became a catchphrase and a buzzword, they figured out that, okay, this is more expansive than oil and gas, and we're an energy company. We're not limited by oil and gas. We're not constrained by the language of our name. We are going to grow into some different spaces. And they have. And they've been very vocal and have done a great job about pushing out the messaging and where things are at from I consider it a legitimate standpoint, with traditional energy sources. But they stepped off first. So it was energy company instead of oil and gas company. Now you've got Oxy, that's a carbon management company instead of an oil and gas company. Talk a little bit about Liberty, because that was a big step for them not long ago, but now Oxy becoming a carbon management company, it's not a big step at all. It's just, oh, okay. But Liberty made some pretty big waves when they became a quote unquote energy company.
Well, they had the electric frac they were rolling out at the same time, being out of Colorado as well. So there was the movement there with North Face and just the climate there. So for Liberty, it's been interesting because in a very short period of time, they have really shaken off the word oil and almost the word energy. When I speak of Liberty Energy, I just say Liberty, and most people do. And when you think of their logo, I think they prominent display Liberty. I don't even remember where energy is in there. I think it's either underneath or even up. It's not. It doesn't retain. So
it doesn't pop.
Yeah. So I mean, realistically, what Liberty Oil, Liberty Energy has done is set themselves up just to be known as Liberty. And whether they did it by purpose or it's happened by accident, it's set up that way with the way people are talking about it and the way they're being referred to, and even the way their logo is. Now, when you look at what the CEO has done, Chris Wright, he's really been, in my opinion, one of the real leaders in the petroleum space to educate people. And when I say people, I mean politicians and leaders. I'm not talking about the average person. I'm talking about, leadership, where he should be out in Dubai, as far as I'm concerned, educating the world leaders on why the oil and gas industry is saving lives. And they can talk all day long about the smoke that comes out of the back of a car, but the oil and gas industry is saving many more lives than they're hurting. And Chris Wright, that's his name, right? Chris Wright?
Yep. Chris Wright.
He does a fantastic, at least the team behind him and Chris and Liberty Energy, from what I've seen, and Ron Gusick, who I've interviewed, what they do a very good job at, and where I think the industry lacks, and I think the leadership in North Dakota lacks this. And I think the leadership in Oklahoma and Texas and other places, where they come from an egocentric, like, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to delegate to you, like we know best. Whereas I believe Chris Wright comes from more of, this is what we're doing. this is why you should follow us. It's a little bit tweaking of a presentation to where he's one of the first ones I've seen that have cracked the kind of the presentation culture where I think the oil and gas industry is solely missed. And another example, Steve, is when
it used to be boilerplate. It used to be boilerplate, and Chris and Liberty stepped out of the box.
Yeah.
It's like, and you're exactly right. It's like, this is what we're doing, and this is why you need to hop on board and follow it.
Well, take a look at like reclamation and some of the advancements in clean energy, even like what coal's done and some of these other things. Stop being defensive. Go out and say, this is what we're doing. Stop playing their game. Like, as soon as you become defensive like that, it becomes from a very egocentric point of view. It's almost like somebody's getting yelled at, or, they're being told, how can you be so dumb? Why don't you know better? It's a different presentation when you're saying, I understand your point of view, but look at this. And look at how far they've come. And look at what we've been able to do. And you continue to focus at this. We continue to focus on this. That's the difference. Instead of pointing fingers, you're keeping the finger pointed at you and just accentuating the great things that the oil and gas industry has done. I get it. There's a spill that happens. I get it. There's somebody who dies on a well site. But guess what? Agriculture, that's been the number one industry for workplace accidents as long as I've been alive. And no one ever talks about that because the government controls that industry and they pay it off with subsidies. So they suppress that information from going out. But if you go take a look at over the last 7,500 years, the number one industry with workplace accidents, agriculture. Nothing even close to it.
Well, just for example, think of how many people either indirectly or a family member or directly that has lost somebody in a grain bin accident or had a limb torn off on a baler or a belt. It's not
something pops and the auger bleeds someone out. Somebody falls into a grain bin. The tractor rolls over on those ditches because they only got three tires. I mean, just we all know the stories. We've all grown up with them in an agrarian state like North Dakota. We know people. So you're exactly right. Steve, here's the thing: just because you look the other way doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Exactly.
So, anyway.
I
know we're up against the break.
So I want to talk a little bit about what's pushing this, what's driving this, because it's not just the landscape of oil and gas and traditional energy sources. It's the ESG movement. I want to get into that next, and we can talk a little bit about ESG University as well. This is Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken along with Jason Spies from the Crude Life. You can get your Crude Life. And This Week in Energy, Sunday mornings, right here on Super Talk 1270.
Welcome to April 2nd on the National Day calendar. Today, we're appreciating a beloved sandwich combination and honoring the spirit of creativity and self-sufficiency.
Who would think that spreading a layer of peanut butter and a dollop of jelly between two slices of bread could create such culinary magic? The peanut butter and jelly sandwich, a staple in kids' lunches and a comfort food for many adults, came to prominence in the U.S. during the World War II era, when both ingredients were part of the military ration. Today, this simple yet delicious sandwich is a symbol of nostalgia and comfort. On National Peanut Butter and Jelly Day, we celebrate this perfect pairing that continues to charm our taste buds.
I am a strawberry jam and peanut butter. How about you?
Grape all day.
I'm not going to argue with you because I love grape as well.
That's like a classic. You can't mess that up. But I do have a question for you. Is it a little bit more jelly or peanut butter?
Oh, it's more peanut butter. By far.
I knew you were going to say that because you love peanut butter.
You're more jelly?
All day. Yeah.
I love this. You keep your jelly away from my peanut butter. I'm telling you right now. From a simple sandwich, we turn to the realm of creativity and innovation. DIY, or do-it-yourself, is a movement about self-reliance, creativity, and the satisfaction of creating or fixing something with your own hands. Whether it's crafting a homemade gift, building furniture, or fixing a dripping faucet, DIY projects tap into our problem-solving skills and creativity. National DIY Day encourages us to roll up our sleeves, learn something new, and appreciate the joy of crafting, creating, and repairing.
You know how we're always saying we need a place for the mail? Well, I started building one. But then I decided to take it to the next step.
You're building a post office?
What DIY project are you working on, Marlo?
You notice the emphasis on repairing? I'm repairing our toilet in the basement.
If you're also breaking it, technically that doesn't count.
What?
You are not a plumber, sir.
That is true. This is going to be not so fun, I'm thinking. But, oh well, how about you?
I'm going to leave that to you.
Oh.
I'm Latoya Johnson.
I'm Marlo Anderson.
Thank you for joining us as we celebrate every day on Destination Celebration.
Until next time, keep celebrating.
Talk of the Town, weekday mornings starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
KLXX AM, Mandan, Bismarck, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union studio.
Without apology, the Regular Joe Show with Joe Gigante, weekday evenings at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
Portions of the following program are pre-recorded.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, I'm Steve Bakken along with Jason Spees. You can catch Jason Spees with This Week in Energy and the Crude Life Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. Jason, my co-host on a Wattage Wednesday. We're talking about the evolution of the oil and gas industry and the marketing side and the perception and how things need to evolve and be reinvented. I think quite often as a phoenix rising from the flames, and you take a look where the traditional energy industry has been, and through the Obama administration, now the Biden administration, they've taken some heavy blows and have been tried to be shut down. Now we're talking about some of this evolution and some of the reinvention with Oxy, formerly Occidental Petroleum, then Oxy, and now Oxy, a carbon management company, Liberty Oil, which became Liberty Energy. Liberty was ahead of the curve, but they saw what was coming. A lot of the oil and gas industry, if they saw it, they kind of ignored it. But a lot of this was being driven by the green movement, ESG, political agendas, which quite frankly put people's lives at risk. When you're looking at the Green New Deal side of things and that green agenda, people can die. It's plain and simple. People can die. So the ESG side of stuff, is that the only push that these companies are getting, or where's it coming from that companies are starting to wake up and realize that they need to reinvent themselves?
Well, ESG, environmental social governance, is a movement that has taken off very much so in the last 4 or 5 years, especially. And when you take a look at when it started, when it started getting traction was right around when they started injecting a lot of money into the economy with the pandemic. And it's also been a way for funding. So in the way we talked about the climate justice, positions that are coming out now.
Still makes me laugh.
Well, there's ESG officers already.
Right. I know that.
There's the ESG conferences. They give out ESG awards.
So is is the social justice warrior, or whatever the heck it is that just an extension of that ESG office, or is this something new?
No, I honestly, I believe that ESG is a political weapon that is being used through the finance system, and I'll be upfront. I believe it's to end capitalism. I believe it's to end landowner rights, and I believe it's to become the new basis where we get our values from. And the reason I believe that is because the people that are administering this are really speaking to the millennials better than anyone. And whoever is after the millennials, I forget their name, if they're Pokemon generation or the Gen Nerd, whatever, I don't even know. The only thing I know is that Gen X is the Jan Brady of the media, because we never get mentioned. It's like, oh, the baby boomers, oh, the millennials, Gen Z, Gen Y. They never mention Gen X. And the thing is, Gen X doesn't even care. Like, ever did, don't care. But
feel slighted? No, don't really care. I'm happy being under the radar. Okay, we're good.
But it's kind of done on purpose, though. It's kind of done on purpose because when you look at who the easiest ones to control are, it's young men and women and people in debt. So if you can control them and usher in, a new financial movement like ESG, where the only way that you can get financing is to play by the bankers' rules. Well, Steve, name me 3 oil companies in the state of North Dakota that do not have an ESG report. Continental Resources does.
Can't do it. Can't do it.
And even though the state wants to pass laws that says that, hey, we're going to be an anti-ESG state, go to Kevin O'Leary's website. He's advertising ESG and DEIY too. So
speaking of Mr. Wonderful, he was just in Lincoln speaking to the Lincoln City Commission. He was on the agenda for last week.
Great. I wonder how much he got paid.
That's a good question.
I mean, totally serious.
Oh, I know. He doesn't do anything unless he gets paid.
So Kevin O'Leary is now a lobbyist. Is that right?
Well, and I didn't get the details on the agenda item that he was speaking to, because I'm sure it was some economic development scam through the Commerce Department.
No. Is Lincoln Cavalier County where he got
No. Lincoln is right next door to Bismarck.
Oh, that's Burleigh County.
Yeah, Burleigh County.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I didn't think it was all the way up to Nokomis.
And I heard some rumblings that Kevin O'Leary has been brought on board on some of the Main Street initiative. Now, I can't confirm that. It's just a rumor I've heard, which, a doubling down of the Main Street initiative, that's a commerce.
So you're telling me somebody who grew up rich and entitled, who's a Canadian citizen and a citizen of Dubai and not an American citizen, has that much pull in the state of North Dakota and is making more money than most homeless veterans in the state of North Dakota? Doug Burgum should be ashamed of himself. He really should be. I mean, what an absolute joke.
And on top of it
by
all,
the way, Kevin O'Leary is not a nice man.
Funded by your tax dollars, my friend. Yeah, funded by yours and my tax dollars.
That's right. That's what's absolutely remarkable. And so now he's a lobbyist. So he's what? He's being paid off by the state so he can go lobby on their behalf. I mean, what's he doing in Lincoln?
I don't know. I should probably call the mayor of Lincoln and find out.
Well, I mean, was he paid? I mean, did he just show up because he's such a wonderful man? I mean, in all honesty,
all I saw was he was on the agenda.
I can't imagine his speaking fee is anything less than $25,000.
Yeah, but who's paying for that speaking fee if that's
what I'm saying? He's getting paid one way or another. It's either
by commerce, and that's our tax dollars.
Or it's through Friends of Ag and Energy, or it's through Harold Hamm. So Mr. Wonderful is getting paid by somebody because there's no way he's showing up in Lincoln, North Dakota on a Tuesday in the middle of winter.
Thursday. It was last Thursday.
Somebody's not that wonderful. That's remarkable that there's that much extra money flowing around the state of North Dakota that they can just do that in front of all the people. But think about it, Steve, what they're doing.
That's the Commerce Department.
Think about what Commerce
is funded by your tax dollars.
They're saying, look how easy we can give somebody money out of state. Look how easy we can fund someone else's money. It's kind of like like in New York when they're bringing these immigrants in from other states and putting them into housing right in front of all those homeless veterans. They're saying, look how easy we can do this with the immigrants. Gee, imagine if we cared about you. North Dakota's doing the same thing. Look how easy we can pay people from out of state and give them work. But we've got workforce issues. Give us more money so we can go give it to more people out of state so we can have them lobby. I mean, do they think everybody is just starstruck by people on TV?
Well, apparently our governor is.
Well, he's got his own deal going on the side. You know what? It's so funny about the governor. I'm not kidding you. We did a story in like 2015 on him when I think my kid interviewed him or something like that. And Mike Nowosky sends me this catty email about how I've got to go change and correct my story because we referred to the governor as a billionaire and he wasn't a billionaire. I noticed this weekend down in Malargo, he was referred to as a billionaire. So that means he's profited kindly and nicely off of his position as a governor. Because according to Mike Nowosky, when he sent me that email correcting our story we did, Governor Burgum was nowhere near a billionaire, to the point they were insulted that we would call Governor Burgum a billionaire. But
he wasn't a governor back
down
then.
In Malargo, he was. Did you notice that, Steve? In that story,
I did.
He was referred to as the billionaire governor and one of the richest people. So, Commerce, you better give him more money too. I know he needs more money for his businesses.
Yeah, just run it through ESG. It'll be fine.
He's such a victim out there in the workplace, man. Governor Burgum, his companies need so much more money, and his son and his cousins and relatives too, like James Burgum and Brooks Burgum. They all need more money from Commerce too.
You can't make this up, folks. Anyway, but hey, then there's Tammy Miller, right? So, who, by the way, you saw announced her lieutenant governor candidate, to run on the ticket with her is none other than Commerce Commissioner Josh Teagan.
Yep, that's right. Boats and hoes.
Yep. I guess when you have bad policy, you double down on it.
You know what I heard in all honesty? I know we're up against the break and this is totally a rumor. It's probably completely made up, but I laughed when I heard it. So I'm going to act like it was true. So I heard that, Commissioner Josh Teagan of Commerce Department, who is one of the most unethical people ever to be in North Dakota politics. I heard that there was kind of a contest to see who could come up with $10,000 first to be the lieutenant governor. And he was the one who got the money first. That's what I heard. I heard that from some people in Fargo that he got that $10,000 raised so fast that Brad up there had presented her with a check. Pretty soon he was rumored to be the lieutenant. Is he the lieutenant or is that still rumored? I don't even know. I don't follow that.
That's what I'm hearing is he is, Tammy Miller's lieutenant governor candidate, but I wonder if he's a nonprofit. That might make sense then. We're up against the break. You got some interviews, a couple snippets of what This Week in Energy is going to look like Sunday mornings right here on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk. Talk of the town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken along with Jason Spees. You can catch Jason Spees with This Week in Energy and the Crude Life Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. Jason, my co-host on a Wattage Wednesday. And, of course, we always talk with Lori Hintz from Beck Communications, Beck.news, BEK.news, with what the latest on Summit Carbon Solutions proposed CO2 pipeline is on Mondays. But I want to get a little different perspective. Curtis Junt, natural gas pipeline official, engineer, expert, a lot of different hats, a lot of different spaces, economist when it comes to moving commodities through pipelines. Curtis, thanks for coming in this morning.
Yep. Thank you, Steve. Good to be here.
And I want to back up a little bit and talk with you about the Public Service Commission hearing that took place last month, at the end of last month. But the day before that, and I watched it on Beck. I wasn't able to attend, but I did watch it. And it was set up as an ag and energy symposium of fact-finding, which basically, when I watched it, it was a paid-for by Summit Carbon Solutions infomercial. And we're going to come back, circle around to that after the top of the hour. But basically, that's what it was. And I found, Jason and I both found the timing of it rather suspect the day before the Public Service Commission hearing. And it was about getting information out there to the public is the way it was sold. You were there, and you called them out with some of their information, and you were shot down a little bit.
Yeah, I guess I was. I mean, I went against the format. The format was on every table you had a little recipe card, and you were supposed to write down your questions. And then Scott Hennon would you'd see him up there fanning through them to decide which one he wants to ask the panel.
Because they already had the questions lined up for the panel, basically. That's how those work.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but they probably had it in their minds the questions they would ask them only. Some of the folks that were there, the majority of the folks there, by the way, I would say 2/3, if not 75% of the folks there were concerned citizens. And you can call us whatever you want, a small group. I mean, the week before, Scott Hennon had a show, his 1100 The Flag, and he referred to all of us as a small group of I don't remember if he called us activists or some other label. But see, that's what goes on when you are, say, a minority or you're going against the big money.
Now, just to put this in context, if you guys would have paid Coinslot Scott, then he would have been supporting you instead of taking a check from Summit Carbon Solutions and supporting them, just to get the facts straight.
Well, that's really somewhat amusing, Steve, because Scott Hennon has a book out. Somebody sent me excerpts from his book where he talks against the CO2 stuff. So, I mean, it's unfortunate, but he's out of Fargo, and Fargo seems to have a lot of clout, with the Thoroldson ethanol plant and other political folks coming from there. But he happens to be the voice now of Ag and Energy, and he was the moderator along with a panel of essentially 6. I mean, one MC, Miss Kathy Nessett, and then there were 5 panelists. And I sat there and, yeah, I mean, I probably was getting cranked up like a jack-in-the-box, as one of my friends referred to me as, someone was cranking the jack-in-the-box, and I finally popped up because when Wade Beauchene started talking about how safe CO2 pipelines are, because we have 5,000 miles, because we've had one operating in the state for 23 years, and because we have one operating in Bowman County, which, by the way, is 18 months and about 18 miles in North Dakota.
Let's pause there for a second, Curtis. Let's pause there for a second. That's a Denbury pipeline. We'll get to that in a moment. That's natural gas. This is corn ethanol that we're talking about here. We're talking about the credibility and the leadership of Scott Hennon, and it has not had a good track record. And being able to pick and choose who they want to allow to speak based on their rules seems to be very thematic of what is going on, because Carbon Summit Solutions is going on people's property like they already have a done deal here. So it's their rules. Before we get too far into this, Curtis, what's your connection to this? Are you getting paid to do an interview right now? Are you a landowner? Are you somebody that got fired by Carbon Summit Solutions? What's your background into this, if I might ask?
Really good questions, Jason. The answer to all of those is no, 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 and no. I got involved in this more than a year ago because the pipeline essentially runs. Before they rerouted it straight north, it cut over from the east to the north, and it came within 3 miles or less of our rural Burley County home. And then just the propaganda about that. So many of my friends who are landowners, ranchers, farmers, when I did get involved in this and working with the Burley County Commission, I got to start reading some of the propaganda about safer than natural gas pipeline and safer than any pipeline running through Burley County. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I've spent my entire career in energy and natural gas, primarily building natural gas producing assets. And I took exception to that. I've not gotten paid. I will not get paid. That is not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this to, then I became made aware by the Burley County commissioners early on, over a year ago, that the pipeline's routed in our growth plate east and north. I was not born in Bismarck, but I was raised there my whole life. I then went to NDSU from there. So if I got involved, Jason.
Okay, if we just take a step back here, then your passion is coming from your experience, your seeking the truth, if you will, trying to be there for the safety. You're basically leading with your heart, whereas we're mentioning someone like Scott Hennon, and I've seen his passage in his book. I got emailed the same passage where he's against CO2. It's going to ruin America in Scott Hennon's book and all this different stuff that he says, and now he's for it, and he's getting paid. Scott Hennon has been getting paid to promote oil and gas. Scott Hennon has been getting paid to promote this ag and energy nonprofit now. And to me, that's the bigger issue. It's the leadership and the people behind the scenes that are wasting a lot of money. This is a lot of wasted money because they're just grabbing someone that they can easily control like a puppet. When I take a look at this whole Summit Carbon Solutions ordeal, to me, as a 39-year media veteran, as a 20-year editor, a 20-year publisher, to me, one of the main stories that every journalist should ask every single person that's involved with this pipeline: are you getting paid? Are you a landowner?
Yep.
What is your connection to this? I think every person should have to answer that before they even open their mouth.
Correct.
And Curtis, thank you for doing that, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. And I'll tell you what, on the December 20th at the Friends of Ag Energy at BSC Energy Center, like I said, about 2/3 to 75% of those that attended that were concerned citizens. Not all of us are opposed to, as Governor Burgum made it quite clear, this is not just to help the ethanol industry, but for enhanced oil recovery down the road in the shales. And we're not against that. I come from the oil and gas industry, but we were there for the health and safety and concern of the growth of Bismarck, our economic impact that it can do to landowners' values and things like that. And I would say the other 25 to 1/3 of those in the room all were there because of monetary reasons, because they're getting paid by an entity or they're employees of Summit. I looked around the room, so I would say any of the proponents there were not.
Wait, if those people were not getting paid, they wouldn't be there.
I believe that's true.
Be there.
I believe that's absolutely true.
Okay, well, how many different public service commission meetings has Harold Hamm attended in 15 years? In 15 years.
He attended the one on the next day, on Thursday. He was there sitting next to Ron Ness.
All right, we're going to come back from the break. And actually, I felt bad for some of the panelists that were up there because they were just there for eye candy. Because you're a leader of this industry or that industry or this industry at the BSC event. So, It was more
Steve,
about.
I want to talk about. I seriously want to talk about how complex this is and how ridiculously insulting the state is being. Ron Ness specifically is being to the oil and gas industry. What the state, Pat Finken, Ron Rauschenberger, and Ron Ness have done is backed the taxpayers into a corner that they need to understand they've been backed into.
Oh, I see a Jason Spiess soapbox coming up, and I look forward to those. More when we come back from the break. This is Talk of the Town on a Wattage Wednesday. I'm Steve Bach along with Jason Spiess. We're talking with Curtis Junt concerning Summit Carbon Solutions' proposed CO2 pipeline. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Yeah.
To Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken along with Jason Spiess. You can catch Jason Spiess with This Week in Energy and the Crude Life Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. Jason, my co-host on a Wattage Wednesday. And we're talking with Curtis Junt, economics
engineer,
pipeline engineer, a lot of different hats, a lot of years of experience in the oil and gas industry, working specifically with pipelines, and that's why CO2 pipelines a little different animal than you're looking at natural gas or oil or any of the other commodities that are shipped via pipelines, which nobody is going to argue it's the safest way to do it, but the commodity that's being shipped through it, that's what makes the difference here. Curtis, you were at that Ag and Energy shill that took place the day before the Public Service Commission. Public Service Commission, I want to give you a couple minutes to talk about that because you were there. How did that go from a PSC perspective and listening to the concerns of citizens that were there to speak?
I'd like to go right to my question, Steve, which is how many public service commissions in the last 15 years has Harold Hamm been to? Because it's the same question we're asking, Steve, but I just wanted to give a little more sizzle to mine.
Right. So this is really interesting because Summit is working, overtime to try to trump counties in having any ordinance or any say in how the pipeline is routed. South Dakota on September 11th, after 3-hour discussion, hearing, whatever, they canceled Summit's permit at the start of what could have been a 3 or 4 week hearing because they just mowed over the county ordinances and said you need to go back and work with the counties. Well, in Iowa, Iowa is so politically incestual, if you want to say, because of the connections between the governor and the founders of Summit and the former governor on their board and our Secretary of Ag's son is their lead counsel. I mean, I knew Iowa was just going to be probably a slam dunk, and the Iowa PUCs or the IUB board, Iowa Utilities Board, those members are appointed by the governor. So to me, that was like, and they're based out of Iowa. But South Dakota is a different animal. And then here, this thing on December 21st was all about the PSC hearing oral arguments from the attorneys of the interveners and Summit on, you should supersede the counties and, the state should be able to just be the only one deciding on the route of the pipeline. The room was packed. Standing room only. Sitting front and center from all the commissioners were the executives of Summit and Mr. Hamm. Ron Ness sat next to him. So I don't know what the point of all that was. I guess maybe it was intimidation. I'm not sure. But
okay, I'm glad you said that because I wanted to ask you your opinion on that based on you being there, you witnessing what you saw, because to me, Harold Hamm attending a North Dakota Public Service Commission meeting is giant news. That should be covered unbelievably up and down within the North Dakota media. And the fact that it hasn't says a lot, because this is a billionaire from outside the state of North Dakota. Why is he at a Public Service Commission meeting? His time is extremely valuable. Okay. And he's sitting next to the person that's supposed to be representing him, Ron Ness. So you have a double barrel now of oil and gas from the state. Where was he sitting to Randy Crispin? Because what I had heard through the grapevine was that Harold Hamm showed up to let Randy Crispin know he's watching him because it's an election year, is basically what I heard. What was your interpretation of Harold Hamm showing up to that meeting?
Well, he sat one row back, front and center from the commissioners. They all did. So I took it as, maybe there for intimidation, there to, demonstrate how important this issue is to some. I took it because I'm not in this political bull crap. I try to stay out of that and try to just, which isn't always good to try to use logic when you're dealing with all the political stuff going on. But I thought he was there just to demonstrate how important this was to the whole CO2 pipeline side, which, by the way, when our governor gave the comments on December 20th, the day before at the Friends of Ag and Energy, he pretty much laid it out that a number of years ago, Mr. Hamm came into his office and he said, we had to help the ethanol industry and hence, help us. We've been paying all these oil and gas taxes in the state of North Dakota forever, and here's our chance, to get some of that tax money back to build a pipeline. This was stated in the opening comments on December 20th at the BSC Energy Center. So there's no magic here. And then the governor said that he told Mr. Hamm, well, my God, Harold, you've been fighting and against ethanol your whole life. So you see kind of what's going on is an enemy of my enemy is a friend of mine kind of thing, I guess. So all this politics thing is, I don't have much of a stomach for it. I'm just my focus is health and safety of all the people along this route, and the missteps that have been taken by this first ever company are too numerous, and it's because they're falling over the money. They can't get it done fast enough. We got to do the shortest route, and knowing that they routed this thing east and north of Bismarck, to try to avoid a DAPL thing south. When there again, if you're a pipeline person, you're able to explain to people in any direction the difference between, let's say you move it south. You explain to the concerned citizens south of Bismarck, this is not an oil pipeline. It's not going to contaminate the soil or the air or the water long term. And, if we put it 20 miles south of Bismarck, that gives Bismarck and also the next city south ample time for warning and dissipation of the CO2 if there's a leak. But when you put this thing east and north of Bismarck, and I've had people in different meetings confront me saying, whoa, so you want to move it out further east and north, so it's just going to be next to someone else's problem, like now Wilton, or someone else's problem, like, Sterling Steel and landowners. And all I've said to them is, I don't think anybody wants this pipeline running close to them with the CO2, high-pressure supercritical CO2. It's all about mitigation. I mean, would you rather work on a safety emergency response plan to protect, 3 or 4 landowners nearby in a township or a small amount in a county? Or do you want Burleigh County where you're having to try to have an emergency response to protect 100,000 people? So, and it just gets into so much complexity about the plume modeling and dispersion modeling. And like I told the fire chief of Bismarck, because I attended a meeting with him and about 8 others in early December, at their request. And I said, you need to do your own modeling. And you need to use the right model like CFD, computational fluid dynamic modeling, that takes into account terrain and you need to, and all the other variables. And you need to get the right engineer, physicist, because when you're talking about modeling CO2 dispersion, you're not talking about just engineers. You're talking about physicists too. And it's so complex. But I said to the fire chief, so I mean, if I'm a salesman, I'm going to sell you a used car and you say, oh, I want to go have it checked out mechanically and everything. And I say, oh, don't worry. We have people. We'll do that for you. Are you going to believe me? No, you're not. You're going to go get a third party. And I said, that's what you have to do to protect us in Bismarck. You have to do your own modeling, and you need to get someone that can do it. Figure out who's going to pay for it, but figure out who's going to do it that's qualified and use the right modeling. I'm about the safety of this thing and the minimizing the impact to innocent people who don't want this impact to their lives.
Kurt, we're up against a break, but I wanted to ask you, because when I look at the landscape of all this and the time it takes for modeling and the different variables and the cost involved with modeling, and what we've heard from Summit Carbon Solution has been, oh, don't worry about it. We can't disclose it because, well, there could be a terrorist attack or different excuses. I don't think it exists. I don't think the diligence was done up front. I think they just said, here's a line on a map. We're going to plant this down. In your expert opinion, do you think that information exists? Have the plume modeling, has it been done? The diligence up front, has it been done? I don't see where it's been done.
Okay, Steve, I think now that it's, the end, let's say the end of 2023 and it's January of 2024, and the stink that the counties and all of us have made about this, yes, they've done some. But from what I've heard, they are using a canary modeling and 2D flow. Well, right away, I'm like, whoa, 2D flow, that sounds like two-dimensional. Not going to happen, not going to work for planning emergency response. We need 3D, something like computational fluid dynamic modeling. And there's an individual out there, he has testimony filed in South Dakota, Dr. John Abraham, who writes all about the different modeling. And you can find papers written in the UK about this too. But I'm all about the safety, the health and safety, and the missteps that, because they were, trying to fall over themselves, they filed all this. They did not have dispersion modeling done when they filed with the PSC, their application. They didn't have an emergency response plan done. It's kind of like putting the cart before the horse, a lot of what's been done. And I think a lot of that just demonstrates the rush to get this thing done as fast as possible. And because of the political support for it, we can just, we'll just do what we need to, and it's going to fly because there's so much federal and state political support. And we're not just up against a company as concerned citizens. We're not activists, by the way. We're concerned citizens for our family, friends, and our animals and livestock. And these people that are building this, none of them are going to live close to this. They're in Houston, Texas, Ames, Iowa. There one guy that does have pipeline experiences, lives in Houston, Texas. And so he can go do all this, get his big bonus, and go back to Texas with his family. But I'll guarantee if this pipeline ran south of Fargo and impacted Fargo's only growth plate, this pipeline would never fly south of Fargo. It would never happen. So many things being done that are wrong with the approach, and they should have spent money and time, because this is all brand new. They should have spent money and time figuring out new ways to protect landowners and citizens with new emergency response and sensors, et cetera.
We're going to come back and get into some of that as well as the media side of this. When we come back, we're talking with Curtis Junt, and it's a little sad when things get politicized, when our elected officials are manipulated to work against the citizens that elected them just because of the money. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Prescription products require completion of an online medication consultation with an independent healthcare provider through the LifeMD platform and are only available if prescribed. Subscription required. Individual results may vary. Additional restrictions apply. Read all warnings before using GLP-1s. Side effects may include a risk of thyroid C-cell tumors. Do not use GLP-1s if you or your family have a history of thyroid cancer.
If you've struggled for years to lose weight and have given up hope, did you know you can now access GLP-1 prescription medications at TryLifeMD.com? We're now offering eligible patients online access to GLP-1s, the breakthrough prescription medication that can help you lose body fat and weight. Listen to what people are saying.
It's fun to put on jeans that you couldn't get into 6 months ago.
Every morning, I look forward to getting on the scale. For anybody who's struggling with their weight, it's a godsend.
And here's the best part. Your insurance may cover 100% of the cost of your medication. So go to TryLifeMD.com to have your eligibility checked right now. Get started today at TryLifeMD.com. That's TryLifeMD.com.
Talk 1270. Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken along with Jason Spees. You can catch Jason Spees with This Week in Energy and the Crude Life Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. Jason, my co-host on a Wattage Wednesday. And we're talking with Curtis Junt concerning Summit Carbon Solutions' proposed CO2 pipeline. And I want to get into the Public Service Commission meeting in just a few minutes. But Jason, you started a thought process, and I want to give you a little leash on that as we were heading into the break.
Yeah, well, Curtis mentioned that he's, an engineer that came from the oil and gas industry. Okay, and he's kind of been blackballed now, or if that's even a correct term. I don't know if you can say that anymore, but
yeah, that works.
Yeah, I mean, within the oil and gas industry in the state, meaning Ron Ness, because here's someone who doesn't think 100% exactly the same way. Well, this has nothing to do with oil and gas. Sure, there's some enhanced oil recovery down the line, but from my understanding, this is not even used for that. They got to pass more legislation to allow that. So more resources now need to be dumped in down the line in order for them to satisfy what they're fighting now. And what really bothers me about this whole thing is that if you don't have tribal mentality, you are now against them. And they will use your own tax dollars to sue you. Summit Carbon Solutions just filed another one yesterday in Iowa. So they're suing more people down in Iowa. And so what you have here is you have Ron Ness telling everybody in oil and gas in the state of North Dakota that if you don't support this, then you are blackballed too. Meaning that you have to support GMO crops, meaning you have to support ethanol, meaning you have to support 45Q subsidies, meaning you have to support this billionaire down in Iowa. You have to support another billionaire in Oklahoma, and you have to support Bill Gates too, a billionaire in Washington. So that means you have 3 billionaires controlling Ron Ness, Doug Burgum, and John Hoeven to make sure that you accept GMO crops, subsidies behind it, ethanol, subsidies behind ethanol, the carbon sequestration, the subsidies behind that. You have to support a bunch of billionaires making 6-figure salaries guaranteed no matter what. So if you question that, then you are blackballed by Ron Ness, Pat Finken, Ron Rauschenberger, and Senator Kramer and his whole staff. And by the way, lots of people have lots of evidence to prove that too. Don't they, Curtis?
Yeah, Jason, that could be true. I don't know. I retired out of that industry for many and various reasons 7+ years ago. One of them was because, I couldn't stand the sea of sharks and just the rampant greed. But I don't know how many have me blackballed, and that's fine. You can blackball me because as I stood up on December 20th at the Friends of Ag and Energy, my point to that panel was about health and safety and the concern for the citizens, their economic impact, risks and liabilities of health and safety. And at the end of that thing, the whole presentation was about money. Didn't hear one thing from one panelist or anyone that talked about here's what we're doing in an effort to make sure that we keep you all safe. I mean, this is brand new. This whole sequestration, storing CO2 just to store it versus enhanced oil recovery. And those 5,000 miles that Wade Beauchesne's talked about, that's all been for enhanced oil recovery, mostly rural, which is nothing when you have over 3 million miles of natural gas pipelines running through our country in the last, started 130 years ago. And that's, the pipeline is not the issue. Pipeline is the safest way to move any product. It's what's being moved in it. And no, CO2 alone is not the devil. And the two compounds on the periodic table, carbon and oxygen, when you combine them together, they make a compound. And that compound of CO2 is not the devil, but when you compress it up to 2,200 PSI and you move it in a 24-inch pipeline through and close to residents and schools, and especially cutting off the growth of Bismarck east and north, then it becomes a devil. That's the devil. And Kathy Nessett at the end of her comments on Wednesday, December 20th said, we all have to sacrifice for the greater good. That's not the greater good that we're willing to sacrifice for. So, I want to see CO2 be available to possibly take our oil production to a higher level down the road. But the way they're going about this, the missteps that they've taken, tripping over themselves for the money. So
it's all about following.
Did Kathy Nesbitt really say that?
Yes, she really
did. Yeah, that is disgusting.
Yeah, the godmother of wind in North Dakota. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town.
KLXX Mandan Bismarck, a town square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union studio.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.